Welcome to Coming to New England. My name is Ryan Pedro, and joining me today is my grandmother, Violet. Thank you for being here.
Quite welcome.
So tell me, what is your full name?
Violet A. Lanou.
So, when and where were you born?
I was born April 1st, 1935 in Attleboro, Massachusetts.
So how did your family come to live in Attleboro?
Well, in the hurricane of 38, the roof was blown off our house, so we purchased the house in Lonica, Attleboro.
Were there any other family members in the area that lived around you, and who were they?
My grandmother and grandfather and my aunts and uncles lived 2 blocks away.
Was there anything special about that house that you remember?
Yes, it was very old, probably over 100 years old at that time, but it was built out of logs, railroad ties.
What was your earliest childhood memory?
My earliest childhood memories of being brought up on a mini farm with pigs and goats and chickens and rabbits and a beautiful big garden.
Can you describe any of the personalities of your family members?
They're all very friendly, outgoing, happy-go-lucky people. Very close-knit family.
What was the house that you lived on like?
We had electricity, but no indoor bathroom. We had an outhouse till I was about 14. We did have a telephone, but it was a 4-party line. There was 4 people all on the same line, and you had to ask the operator to get you the number you wanted to talk to, and sometimes the neighbors were on the phone, so you had to ask them to get off the line so you could make a call. But it was interesting. Played store. We used grass for spaghetti and dirt for hamburg, and but then we played a game that called Red Rover, where everybody, you'd have 2 teams, and you had to try and run and get past them, and that was pretty much the game. Well, right in our backyard, fortunately, we had a beautiful freshwater lake, and so every summer we'd go swimming or fishing down there, and in the winter we'd be able to go down there and go skate, and after my father gave the okay that it was safe to skate. And another thing we used to do, we used to go to the nun's house twice a week. They played movies. That was about it. School was a lot different than today. The teachers could not be married, the women. And there was no such thing as a man teacher at that time. And we had to walk all the way to school, and we had to go home at noontime for our lunch. So we had an hour and a half to go home, eat, rain, snow, or shine, and go back to school. And my best subject was math and social studies, and my worst, unfortunately, was English.
Did you go to college?
No. In fact, I got a home permit when I turned 16, and I went to work for a year. Then I went back to school and really didn't like it.
Wasn't for you.
At 16 years old, I worked a full-time job until I did go back to school after my sons were in school, and I got my GED, and then I got a business degree from Rhode Island Business Institute.
Who were your childhood heroes?
Oh, by far my father and my Uncle Romeo. Well, my father was such a wonderful man. He worked so hard to keep us fed and dressed, and my Uncle Romeo was just the greatest man I ever knew in my life. I just idolized him. That was my father's younger brother. And of course, he was the only one of my uncles that went in the Army, and he was in there during the World War II. He wrote to me, answered every letter I wrote as a 6-year-old child. So I just loved him.
Well, who were your friends growing up?
I had 2 close friends since we were 5 years old, and to this day, they're still my close friends. 78 years later, and surprisingly, in 78 years, we've never once had an argument, and they're still my my dearest friends.
Have you had any family recipes passed down?
Oh, yes. My grandmother came from Italy, and she taught me how to make spaghetti and meatballs, which is still my very favorite.
What was your proudest moment as a parent?
Probably just the fact that I raised three wonderful, wonderful sons. One graduated college, one completed tour of duty in the Army, and my youngest completed a tour of duty in the Marines. So I don't think you can be any more prouder than that.
Were you ever mentioned in the newspaper?
Yes, when we were children, it was a pretty good snowstorm, and so we couldn't go to school. But the photographer happened to come by, and we were all out building a snowman. Well, we got in trouble for that. It was a front page with all my brothers and sisters and 6 of us. Somebody's got it. I've seen it not too long ago.
All right, I'll have to do some digging then. What did you enjoy doing together as a family?
Definitely going camping. I'm in New Hampshire, right near the White Mountains.
White Mountains?
And we went to the same campground with my brother, my 2 brothers and their wives and family, and my mother and me and my 3 sons. And it was a fun time, you know. And we had just the tent that we set up. And
Of all the things you learned from your parents, which do you feel is the most valuable?
I believe it was how to be a good mother, and how my father was a very, very hard worker. So I think that was a big help.
Did you have any pets when you were growing up, and what were their names?
Yes, as a child we had animals all the time, but especially a dog named Star, who was really a hero dog, because my youngest brother was a baby. We were at the fireworks at Capron Park, and somebody had thrown a cigarette, and it landed in the carriage, and the dog was barking and barking and barking, and we had no idea why he was barking until we saw the smoke coming out of the carriage. So if he hadn't continued barking, God knows what would have happened to my kid brother. And then after, when my boys were growing up, we had Benji, who was my pride and joy. As children, we always ate, you know, at home when my mother did all the cooking. And every Sunday my dad, because my father worked nights, so he wasn't out with us for supper, but every Sunday he cooked bacon and eggs for all of us. So that was, and after we all got married, our favorite thing was to go down to my mother's house, and by that time my father had passed away, a very young man. But we met there every Sunday for spaghetti meatballs, and just enjoyed playing badminton or baseball, whatever, because it was such a big backyard. So.
Oh, that's very interesting. So, how is the world different today from what it was like as when you were a child?
When I was a child, you never had to lock your doors. I don't think we ever had a key for the house. It was a much calmer way of life and not so hectic. The mothers stayed home, so when you come home from school, you were never alone. It was always your mother was there. It's changed tremendously. Price rise, you know, pays. When I was 16, we were earning 75 cents an hour.
Oh, wow.
So if you made $30 a week, that was a big pay.
What world impacts had the most impact on you growing up? Did any of them personally affect the family?
I think World War II and the air raids. I never forgot that, because you had to, we had black shades, and you had to close, you know, when the sirens went off, you had to close all your shades, shut all the lights, and we had like some kind of policeman would patrol the streets, and you had to stay in your house, and that was scary for children, you know. I mean, we sat around the table praying until the sirens went off, then you could put the lights on.
Well, it has been my pleasure to interview today. Thank you again for being here. This is Ryan Pedro, and you've been watching Coming to New England.
Well, I was pleased to be here with you.